Hey, you guys. Welcome back to my channel. It is Ali, your favorite eccentric SLO-mad. How's everybody doing this morning? Yeah, as promised, we are going to be talking about South Africa today. On a live video, you guys can ask questions. I have a slew of things. I'm going to attempt to make today's live chat a little bit more organized so that it does not expand for 3 hours like the last time. Nothing against staying on and chatting for a long time, but I got other things to do today, and I know you guys do as well. So I also want to make these replays a little bit more manageable too. Okay, so you guys, y'all asked about South Africa. You last week we did a Q&A on Thailand, kind of as a whole. This week we're going to talk about Thailand a little bit and I'm trying to get signed in and not Thailand. We're going to talk about South Africa a little bit and sorry, quick distraction on my laptop. Um, all the things that you want to know, whether or not South Africa is an alternative, because I know a lot of us are thinking about it, an alternative to actually living in the US. So is it a place that you should consider uh, going to? And so I have a number of things you can ask questions as well, but I have a number of um, possible benefits, yays or nay things. I have a list of activities, like different things that you can do in the city that really don't cost any money. Because I'm big on, if I'm going to live in a place, is it a place that I can flourish in without doing touristy things? Because y'all, the reality is, in your everyday life, how often do you go and do touristy type things? Like, it's not an everyday thing. So what are the types of things? This is the first thing. What are the types of things that you need in order to have what you would call a successful relocation, extended stay, if you want to expat, um, or a nomad like I am? What are some of the things that you need in that location um, to be successful? You need coffee shops, you need walkability, you need nature. Do you need malls? Do you need good transportation, because you won't be, you know buying a car? Sorry, y'all. I swear for God, every time I go live, there's something quirky. My selfie stick is not holding for some reason. Time to get a new selfie stick. Hey, Jimmy, welcome. Um, so I want to talk about it all. And I'm going to give you guys, those of you who are new to my channel, thank you for joining. Those who are repeaters, thank you for joining as well. Coming back and uh, always being a part of my videos and sharing with me where you are in your particular journey. You guys, let me turn on my, okay. And so if you know my story, and I've done some other videos on South Africa, please check my playlist. You'll see a South Africa playlist. And I've done some kind of structured and non-structured chats about South Africa, but today I wanted to do it live with you guys because it's, number one, still so fresh, and number two, it is a place that I had not planned to actually visit, not anytime soon. I wasn't really, it wasn't on my radar. It was always a place that was always mentioned. Um, I see a lot of Americans, if they choose Africa, the continent of Africa, typically the country that they visit is South Africa. And the reason that everybody tells me that they go to South Africa was one that I wasn't really, that didn't excite me. They were like, "Oh, it's just like being in America." So here's me, then why am I going to South Africa? If it's just like, why not just stay in America? And I have learned over time to make my own judgments. And but because I was hearing it from everybody, literally everybody, I just said, I'll put it on the back burner. And well, I ended up with an opportunity to go this year and explore a little bit. And I was with my travel bestie, my December travel bestie. And y'all, I can say with unequivocation that I was pleasantly surprised and I loved it. So that is why I am sharing so much. Um, I am sharing so much about my experience in Thailand. Y'all, I'm gonna have to find my cell phone, my other cell phone. Uh, my computer. So pleasantly surprised about what I experienced when I went to South Africa, to the point of um, highly considering it as a place to relocate to long term. What? Exactly. So let's talk about some of the things that, okay, so these are some questions that I've been asked before. So I'm kind of going to answer some things and you guys chime in as well. And if you've already been to South Africa, which cities have you visited? And what are your thoughts, overall thoughts on South Africa and or relocating? And so my focus is going to be on Cape Town and Johannesburg, primarily talking about Cape Town because that is where I spent the majority of my 2 months. Um, and I only spent about collectively a week in Joburg. So, but I can still do some comparisons because I stayed in 3 areas and visited 2 other areas, kind of visited on the outskirts, kind of as a tourist. Visited, but I can give you my feel because you guys, I don't know about you, but I am an energy kind of person, and so I can tell when I walk into a place whether or not it feels like it's going to fit. And sometimes it just doesn't fit for that period in my life. And I think that applies to everybody. Like one of the things I will say is never completely rule out something unless you know 100% for a fact that you would never step foot. Like, if you've got in your mind, and this is something that I use as like kind of a benchmark. Yeah, I'd come back, but not anytime soon. But yeah, I'd come back. There's a couple other places I want to visit. Then you're not 100% shut off to the idea. Okay. But if you're like, oh, no, never, ever, ever, then yeah, it's probably a little bit further on your list. For me, I had never been. And I shut it off simply because too many people were referring to it as the United States. And I really, really, really want to experience things that are not like replicas of the States. I want a different cultural experience. So, did I get that? Can you get that in South Africa? And first of all, let me tell you, there's so much more to South Africa than Cape Town and Joburg. but those are the major cities. Typically, when you go, that's where you start. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Okay. And when those pass the test, then you got to know the rest of it is probably worth visiting. Okay, so I'm gonna give y'all a quick word. Um, Let me give you guys a quick word. I used to do these little cards with nice sayings. Um, and I haven't done it in a while. So I'm going to read one to you. New adventures. Today, I open myself up to new adventures. I go out and do something I've been holding back from. I move through the fear rather than let it control me. I trust my intuition and follow my desires. That is your word for the day. Okay. You guys, hopefully that resonates and sits well with you guys. So let's get into it. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk Cape Town. Is it a gym or not? Yes, it is. I'm just going to start off with say it's a gym. Stay until the end because I'm also going to give you kind of like entertainment things, things that you can do when you're there, things that I recommend, like things that are low budget or free um, when traveling specifically to Cape Town. I may add in a couple Joburg places as well. Okay, so first of all, the question I get pretty much in any city or country that I visit, most people ask me, is it welcoming? And as a Black American, they're asking two questions. Is it welcoming to Americans? And is it welcoming to Black people? And yes, we still have to ask that question, especially in the climate that we're in right now. Y'all can see it, so I don't even have to explain it, and I'm not going to. But yes, South Africa is actually very welcoming. I will give you my true assessment. It is one of those places, I will say when you land, you might be as a Black person, you may be surprised when you get there, especially at the airport, because you're going to think you're in Europe. And not from technology, because Cape Town, if you're flying into Cape Town is uh, very sound infrastructure, just landscape beautiful, built up very nicely. But Cape Town actually is not the does not have the bigger airport. Actually, Johannesburg does, which is really interesting, right? Um, and so those two cities in and of itself, when you enter, a lot of times you go to Cape Town because of the activities and things to do in Cape Town. So when you land, you might be surprised when you're in the airport and find that you're like one of two visitors in um the immigration lines, and that's it, right? It happens because of things, the historical stuff that I learned, the cultural things that I've learned in being there. It all starts to make sense. So don't be alarmed, because the people are very welcoming. I will say that it was probably the first time, and I've been. This is my eighth country. It's my seventh of my eight. Um, Almost nine countries that I've been to in South Africa, and y'all, there's 54. There's 54, okay? So it's like the US, states in the US, that's how big South Africa is, in terms of numbers of provinces, states, or countries within the continent itself. And I will say, out of all the ones I've been to outside of Kenya, South Africa was very welcoming in terms of their local people, the indigenous local people, being so just vibrant and willing to just chat about everything. Open to just, they're super helpful, super kind, amazingly gracious people, um, but also aware of who they are. And it is one of the places that I was super surprised to see that, given how, especially in Cape Town, this was something that I felt was is they're very open-minded, maybe not open-minded, but the indigenous people, the Black people that are there are very open, and very kind and courteous and willing to share their culture and their experience, and that's just, and recognize where they fit in that without shame or ignoring it. They don't try to put it behind the woodwork and act like it doesn't exist. And it's actually very refreshing because it's like going and not in a twilight zone. You're actually in a place where people know who they are, which makes it easier and nicer to flow when you are coming to find yourself. Like many of us Americans, Northern Americans are trying to do. So that's one thing that I would say. It's very welcoming. Um, People have always also asked me for long term, how long can I stay in South Africa? So we'll turn that into what's the visa process. So once you decide to go to South Africa right now, as of today, April 9th, 2025, US citizens can enter South Africa visa free. Cross your fingers that that does not change once we get through this and you learn all the amazing things about South Africa. We can enter visa free, and y'all, we get 90 days on the jump. Stamped. You don't need to show anything. You don't need to say how long you're going to stay. You don't need an onward ticket. I'm not sure what the immigration rules are, but I've been in and out of, well, I left and went to another country, but I've been flying around back and forth to Johannesburg a couple of times. Never asked for an onward ticket or anything like that. Um, and so we get 90 days. And so the jig is, well, how many times, because a lot of places have a limit on how many times you can re-enter a country in the term of 180 days or a year. And South Africa right now does not have any limitations on entry in and out of the country. Um, and you do get a stamp. They are currently stamping. So you'll see how many days they give you. And it's like every place, it's that discretion of the customs officer. But primarily, we are allotted 90 days. Now, there's also the question about whether or not you can um, leave and re-up, like by border hopping, is what we call it, and go to a neighboring country. Like Namibia shares a border, Zambia shares the border to the north, I believe, and of course Zimbabwe shares a border. And Botswana shares a border. And so does Zimbabwe actually share a border? I think it does. I think it is like that little, I have to look at a map and show you guys. Um um I have to look at a map and see. So anyway, so the question is whether or not you can actually border hop to a neighboring country and come back and re-up your 90. And some people were saying, no, you can't do that. There was a rule, they won't let you just go across a border. You still got to fly. It's not like you can drive from Cape. I mean, you can if you got a couple of days in you. Because Cape Town is pretty far south in South Africa. Even to get to Namibia, it's probably like a 16 to 19-hour drive to get to the border of Namibia, which you would, most of the stuff that you want to see is more in the middle or the northern part of Namibia. Um, Driving to Joburg is no small feat either, because it's way on the other side of South Africa. So I went to Zimbabwe. So I wasn't expecting anything. I had my first 90 days. I was prepared that if they said we're not gonna extend your first 90, that's what you're gonna be under. I was prepared. I had a whole nother month. So I could have stayed 3 months, but I ended up with some obligations and things. And so when I came back from Zimbabwe and came into Joburg, they stamped me for another 90 days. So I was like, dang it, I've been here for 6 months, right? Hey Colette. Um, I am not. I actually just left 2 weeks ago, and I love it. I will be back. I'm in Joburg until April 20th. Okay, so you're leaving too. Okay. We should meet. We should have. I would have loved that. That would have been fantastic. How often do you go to Cape Town? Um, what's your affiliation? Are you a native? Are you visiting? Are you relocating, considering? I am trying to build up a new network of friends, and I met some amazing people when I was there, from realtors to other people who have relocated, like on retirement visas. So I'll just quickly chat about that. I don't know everything about their visa system. As a worldwide traveler, and I still nomad, I don't remember every single visa process or possible visas that are available for every country. I just can't. So I do have to go and look it up on the embassy sites. There is a possible retirement visa that they offer, which I would qualify for. I believe it's 50 years old. And just like any other place, you have to show a certain amount of income. And then it affords you other rights as being there. And then there's relative visas and residency and things like that. And I think residency takes about 5 years. So you've got to be committed in whatever it is that you're doing. You've got to be committed and planning on being there. And I'll let you know if we're planning on being there. Here to my daughter's emergency surgery, but plan to relocate. That is fantastic. Okay, cool. Maybe we should chat. Because I haven't started. I did talk to a lady who has been there for 18 months, and she is super, super cool. I met her actually like my last week or so that I was staying there. So I really didn't get a long time to chat with her, but we are friends online, and she was a wealth of knowledge in terms of the visa process and uh, that kind of stuff. So, open communication to whether or not, the steps in the process in terms of filing for a retirement visa there. And she's living in an area that I actually really like, if I am going to be outside of the city proper area. Um, but good luck to your daughter on her surgery. Prayers to you guys when you say emergency surgery. That's hopefully everything is well. Hope everything is well, or pray that everything is well. And good luck on your relocation. I hope to see you because I plan to be there. I plan to go back. And we haven't decided exactly when, but we will be renting initially. And I've already got a realtor that we were using. This is me and my family, that we were using when I was there, and looked at houses in a number of different areas. So that process is another another uh, thing to consider. Um, they have slightly different rules, but very similar to the U.S. One of the things that they don't do is they do not uh, loan 100% of, so 100, they do not give 100% of a loan. So if you need 100,000, they will only give you 50,000. So you've got to front the other 50,000 to purchase a home um, through their banks. So you could always, get a loan in the States and then pay up front, and that might be easier. They have some other rules there. Their inspection process is different than ours in terms of the things that are required in an inspection, especially things like foundation. So they will check that stuff. If you request it, it's not mandatory. So it's kind of like in the States, there might be different rules depending on the areas that you live in. So if you live in an area that has, like in Texas, there's areas where there's a lot of foundation issues, and it's because of the shifting and the type of soil that is there. And so it is mandatory to have a foundation certification or whatever when you sell a house. And then when you're buying one, making sure that you receive one. Whereas here, that's not a thing as much. You can request it. They don't have all the types of limitations, but everything is negotiable, right? So if you get a good realtor, it looks like a lot of things are negotiable. And a lot of people here, especially if they're like leaving, like it's a thing to leave everything in the house. And when I say everything, I mean everything. I looked at probably 25 to maybe 25 properties. And the majority, um, like if we were looking at like move in ready, they were willing to leave pretty much everything, you know. Rentals are the same. Pretty much everywhere I've gone in the world, full furnished, including housewares and toiletry type of things, bathware type things. All those things are usually included when you rent a place, and it's crazy that you have that much stuff in a house. So they rent them like they're what we call Airbnb rentals without them being Airbnb rentals, right? They're long term leases. Some people do short term. I will tell you that South Africa is joining the bandwagon. Hey, Claire. Um, Good morning or afternoon or evening to you, depending on where you are in the world. But they are jumping on the bandwagon of limiting daily rentals. So, um, it's important to know that so many countries are pushing back on, we say Airbnb, but it's like a blanket statement like saying Band-Aid. So it's not like it's just the site Airbnb and you can go and do the same thing on Verbo. No, they mean any daily rentals. And like in Thailand, most of the apartment buildings, they have, when I say a huge sign, you can't miss this. When I was here, I've been coming back to Thailand. I'm in Thailand now, you guys. So I've been coming back to Thailand since 2019. So every year I end up in Thailand. And 2020, 2021, 2022, I went from Bangkok to Pattaya, down to the Jomtien area. I was closer to that Jomtien area than the northern Pattaya area. Anyway, I was staying in an apartment and it was rented on Airbnb. It was short-term rental, and I didn't notice until I was leaving that they had a sign that says no day-to-day rentals, and the penalty and all of that. And so I used to always ask this question, how is that like my issue if why would I be penalized if I'm renting a place that is listed on a site? How do I know that it's against the accommodation or that that complex's rules? And so Thailand has pretty much listened to their people, because all of these short-term rentals drive up the rates for the locals as it does in any other place. So it's not hard to understand, and put a stipulation on pretty much any apartment complex. So if you realize that you're like going into an apartment building and not a like apartment hotel. Like I'm in an apartment hotel right now. I have a basic suite, so I don't have like a kitchen or anything, but they have them in this building and then they have a sister location that's like real like apartments. Like this location, I think actually has two bedrooms and three bedrooms in it. Which is crazy. So, but I'm in a regular studio. So what you want to do when you're going to places like in South Africa is you want to check if they are a legal guest house, um, meaning that they could do guest rentals, day-to-day rentals, and there's something that they have to do to set that up. Because if they're not, and a neighbor calls and tells and says, "There's a new person here and I feel unsafe," and, or the landlord's renting this place out, or somebody who owns this or is responsible for this is renting it out. So like that subletting thing, it's got to be at least 30 days. So nothing short of 30, 31 days. To make sure that you don't get caught in that. And yes, you would be held responsible if you go in and you book a 7-day rental somewhere, a 5-day, a 3-day rental, and uh, they come knocking on your door and saying, we know you don't live here. So, one of the things I usually say is ask when you're renting Airbnb, ask the host, "Hey, is it legal for me to stay in your place? Am I going to have any issues?" Um, but I will tell you, I stayed in four four locations in Cape Town and three locations in Joburg. And there are a number of apartment hotel, condo hotel type places to stay where you don't have to deal with that. You've got 24-hour concierge and security on site. Some of them have cafes in them. Um, and since we're talking about accommodations, I will give you two places that I stayed. So I'll tell you, like, I stayed in my first month was in a house, but we rented for a month in Sunset Beach, so Milnerton area on the coast. We were like a 5-minute walk to the coast, which was beautiful. So we were only a street away, a couple streets away from it. So you could literally just walk around the corner and you're at the beach, and it was beautiful. And then you just turn and look, and there's Table Mountain and everything. We rented that place for a month, and that was acceptable because it hit that 30-day mark. I think we were there for um, 5 weeks, and then I moved to the Gardens, and I stayed in an apartment hotel type place that is rented like it's like an apartment, so they have kitchens and all of that, but it's in a hotel style, with daily service and all of that, and that was great, and that was in the Gardens area. Gardens area I actually really like because it's kinda in between, being in you're not on the coast, so you do miss that, but you're kinda in a little covert area close to downtown and, easy to get around, transportation, same with Sunset Beach. Um and then after that, I went and I stayed in Hout Bay. I always say Houts. Hout Bay at like at a guest house, basically. I rented from some friends. They have a guest house down in Hout Bay, and it gave me an opportunity to explore a little bit. I didn't do as much as I should have, the area, and then also stayed in Sea Point, closer to Green Point. That's 3 places, right? And my favorite area, y'all, was CBD. I actually stayed in CBD, walked around as a solo person in CBD, and I will tell you the complex or the chain that I actually really liked, and it was called Total Stay. And Total Stay has like 7 different buildings um, throughout the city, and each one has a different level. The one that I liked probably the most in terms of the amenities in the building was a Habitat Hotel by Total Stay, which was right across from the Slave Lodge, right across from the big park that's in the middle of the city, and 2 steps from where the green market and all of that is. So it's perfect location. Grocery stores down the street. You could walk anywhere and basically walk around the corner and jump on the bus. ATMs right outside. multiple locations, easy to walk around, all of that. Felt safe. Obviously not walking around late at night or anything like that, but I don't do that in the States anymore. So, um, no different. So I stayed at the Habitat, and then I also stayed at the Carrington. And the Carrington was nicer in that it was truly um, more set up as an apartment and had a washing machine in it. Heard everything brand new, but the Carrington didn't have any of the amenities. It didn't have a cafe on site. Um, and I'll tell you why that's important in a minute. This is not a question that someone asked me, but it's something that I observed, and it's good to note, especially as an American. Um, the reason why, for me, I look for places that have at least a coffee shop. Excuse me. Or I prefer places with a coffee shop, not necessarily a full blown restaurant, because then you contend with bugs. Um, Pretty much always gonna happen unless you're on the top floor. They might not come that far up. But, it's nicer to have, like, a cafe or 7-Eleven, or here they have Lawson 108s that are starting to try to compete with the 7-Elevens, a mart or something that is down below where you can go and get things really easily. A coffee shop downstairs is amazing to have, because first of all, it gets you out, you could actually go down and do some work, you can grab a coffee, it gets it for me, it's like the start of my day. And also having a place where, let's say I want to grab, when I was having cocktails, if I could go down and have a cocktail in my building and be in an apartment setting, but feel like I'm in a hotel in terms of the security and access. Like, I don't have to leave my establishment to go out and just, watch television. Some of them, if they have a TV in um, the facility or whatever. So that's what I look for. And Total Stay, most of their places are set up really nice, like extended stay type places. But the Carrington was set up really beautiful apartment. Like, I love this apartment. It was the bathrooms and stuff were a little bit smaller in the room that I had. But like, the upstairs, it was the sitting area was like, eh. And then, like, so the rooftop and stuff, it was okay. Maybe they're still developing it, but they didn't have anything on site. And so, the area it was in is also in CBD. It was just around the corner down the street from where Habitat was. But I preferred the setup of Habitat because that coffee shop was open till 8. Now, here's the ticker. Here's the thing that surprised me about Cape Town. Same thing with Joburg. For the most part, except like the grocery stores, a few of the grocery stores, everything closes at like 6. So it's not just like the museums and that kind of stuff, like everything. The markets, and markets being like grocery stores. So the street markets, all that stuff. So a lot of times you think of, oh, you can go to the night market, um, and stuff. CBD, everything closes. At the mall, it closes at 6, latest 7. So you could be at the waterfront and it's gonna close. Uh, some instances, I think it stayed open till 7, maybe 7. The inside would still be open, but the courtyard and all that open area that's open, people would be out there because then there would be street performers and things like that. The restaurants typically will stay open a little bit later depending on the area you're in, but oftentimes most of the stuff was closed at 6 o'clock. And so that took a little bit of getting used to because I was like, wait a minute, so unless it's like an established restaurant that served alcohol, they were shutting the doors. And of course, that's not 100% all the time everywhere, but it felt like everywhere I chose to go closed. Some of the grocery stores. So the grocery store chain thing is you'll find 4 major grocery stores: Pick and Pay, Checkers, Woolworths. Like, we think of Woolworths, like in the States, it's different. It's a play off the name, but the same name. We call it Woolies and Spar. So spar is like European. You see spar in, you know, places like Hungary and Albania, Balkan countries, and East Europe. You'll see spars. You probably see them in different more places than that. I think Turkey actually has spars too. And then pick and pay is like the kind of the lowest end, and then I think it's Checkers and Spar, then Checkers, and then Woolworths. And the nice thing about most of the places is all of them had an adjoining, like, coffee shop as well. So if they stayed open late, you can actually just go and chill at the coffee shop if, if you wanted to go and be out of the apartment, and which I have a thing I like to, like, after this I will be leaving and going and doing the same thing that I could be doing here, but getting out, getting my walk on, enjoying the city and going to an open kind of co-working space that's just open to the public. Anybody can go. So it's really, really cool. African Americans are very welcome to South Africa. I'm South African. I know I speak from what, yes, y'all are. Um, thank you, Doomsay. I know you can't tell me how to say it. I wish we had that little button where, you could tell me, I could hear you or I could bring you on. I was gonna have a guest on um earlier, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But anyway, yes, I was pleasantly um not necessarily surprised, but surprised given the number of countries I've been to. Not to say that I wasn't welcomed in the other countries, but you guys are just outwardly friendly and welcoming. It's like you don't have to pull it out of you. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times people are like, oh, well, yeah, if they're in the service industry, they have to be. In America, we ain't nice to each other and we in service. What does that mean? And that's not true. Like people can serve you without being like genuinely kind. And I felt like in South Africa, even in Joburg, I have so many stories. I have so many stories of my experience and people that I talked to, and like it just put a smile on my face. And um, oh, okay, that was weird. Kicked me out and did something weird. Um, but I will say, um, in the 7, 8 countries I've been to in Africa, Kenya is another one that I really love. And I'm gonna throw this out here because I know as a person who travels and in 1 year I could be in uh, countries that where I'm in places that most of the time they don't English is not their primary language. So I did a tally, I think last year or the year before, and in 14 countries that I was in, or 12 countries, there were 10 different languages that were their primary language. Of course, the basic things people can say hello, like I can say hello and goodbye and thank you. That's usually like all I can do. So I will also say that the two places that I find are were very easy to kind of socialize with local people. Like it was so easy to just socialize with local people. Is maybe because there's no language barrier. While South Africans do not only speak English, there's like 15 languages. Tosi, I believe, is one, and Zulu, I believe. Kosa, am I saying it right? Kosi or Kosa? Um, I've only been gone for a few weeks and I forgot already, but there's 15, at least 15 languages that I believe are accounted for in the country. But English is one of the primary, in Afrikaans as well. But English is one of the primary languages. And so most of the people, 99% of the people that you're going to encounter speak English, from your Uber drivers all the way to, just being out and about and walking along the promenade and somebody stop and speaking to you, or they're walking by with their dog and you say something and you have a conversation. It was really, hey Marilyn, thank you, Doomsay, for letting me know. But yeah, it was really a comfortable uh, experience, and I don't like to necessarily associate it with just the fact that we're all American English speaking, but also understand that that provides a level of comfort too, because then people understand you. But I've been other places too where the language, English is not the language, the primary language, and people are so welcoming, like Thailand. We might not all speak, but just how kind people are. Like I've been in a number of places. Vietnam is another place where the people are just amazing. Like they're not necessarily like they invite you into their home necessarily right away. They do eventually. I got aunties in Vietnam. Everybody gonna if you stay long enough, you're gonna have an auntie. So I do have that in other places, but I feel like it's one of those places where if you walk around and you don't make some sort of connection, and I don't mean like, oh, now you bosom buddies. I don't mean that. I mean like you can feel comfortable going to a coffee shop and talking to the person next to you. I ended up talking to somebody for an hour that was sitting next to me. But she was with some other people, and then she like leaned over, and I leaned over, and then we were talking like we were like best friends, and everybody was sitting there like, y'all know each other. She wasn't from South Africa, she's from Zimbabwe. We're like, "Nah, we don't know each other," but that's a black thing too, y'all. That's just how we are. We be like sisters from another mother, right? And it was so nice and so refreshing. It added to my tally list of the reasons why South Africa became a high on my list of options, places that I'd say. Okay, so I kind of chatted about the visa situation a little bit and the types of visas and things like that. Um, Talked about Airbnb just a little bit and the concept of Airbnb really being daily rentals. So just be mindful of that, you guys. Places are cracking down, and you don't want to be in the middle of some nonsense, and you know you've paid some money, because the other thing I will tell you is South Africa is not cheap. I will quantify that because it depends on what thing you're talking about. So from an accommodation standpoint, short term touristy type accommodation, it's not necessarily it can be cheap. If you're only staying for like 5 days, yeah, I would say it's pretty cheap. But if you're staying short term for 2 to 3 months, it could be expensive. Okay. Um, it can be expensive. So they have this thing where it's either, you know, a tourist rate, or you stay in long term for a year. In between. So I'm a nomad and I'm in between. So I know next time I go, I'm planning on staying 6 months minimum. And we're going to try to get accommodations that way. And we got so many options and things like that in the time of the year to go and all of that. So we're planning. But any tips you guys have, please share. Say, can you tell me what location, what area that you live in, or if when I go back, I've been to Joburg and Cape Town. What other areas should I visit? So when I say Cape Town, I've been in Cape Town, like CBD, waterfront, Out Bay, Muizenberg, all the way up to Meth Boss Strand. So in everything in between, I've kind of Italy paddled around. What other areas like along the coast? I know there's the Garden Coast thing. There's Port Elizabeth. There's what's the other big city that starts with a D down south? I haven't been to Pretoria. Uh, so what other places would you suggest a person visit if we're going to stay for 6 months, um, and plan on being there for a year? Cape Town is my preferred city, I will say, in terms of living, um, just because of the amenities, what it affords. But I would also be interested in other areas. And when I say Cape Town, I mean Cape Town and the surrounding suburbs. So Table View, Big Bay, Glauberg, Milnerton. Hey, Derek, you're the child. Listen, do one-on-one with me and we will get you sorted. Yeah, I used to do travel agency stuff years ago. I did it twice. Now I do more consulting. So I am more than willing to help. This is how I make my living too. So yes, I will be your agent, agent of change. Um, Okay, so when we talk about cost, like I said, the accommodations can range. So if you got high-end costs, the high-end lifestyle, you could pay a pretty penny. Like let's say you're a person you're like, oh, I need to see the water and I want to be in the mix of everything. You're gonna want Greenpoint or Sea Point. Camps Bay may be like Camps Bay too, but because this Camps Bay is the waterfront area, the restaurants, all the stuff they available, it's like amazing to be there. Sea Point is another, but everything is kind of more nestled in because the promenade is what you're going to really get hit with on from the seaside, right? So you'll see the promenade and the pools and you know all of that, and then kind of set back are establishments and things, but everything is really close. And then you have Greenpoint, which is just is north of Sea Point, and Greenpoint is gets a little bit more like apartmenty and more of that kind of homely feel, but everything is really really nice. Lots of hills as well, and then you get over into waterfront area, and then down. Sorry about that, you guys. I don't know why I keep cutting out, and I'm on data. I'm on unlimited data. Okay. We're going to turn off my 1 second, you guys. I'm going to turn off my mobile hotspot. That might be it. It might be trying to pick up something else. Let me just check and make sure. Marilyn, Derek, you guys let me know if you guys are still with me. If you all can hear me okay. Um, but so as far as cost, let's go back to cost because a lot of people want to do, and I'm going to compare. I'm going to compare South Africa to thank you, Marilyn. I'm going to compare South Africa to the US. So, major things that we need: food, accommodations, transportation, and communication. All right. So, those are going to be the four things that I focus on. So we already talked about accommodations. You can either go like low. So I was able to get like at my places that were apartment condo hotels, as low as did I pay 20 a night? 25 for that apartment? I think I got a deal though. I think I really got a deal. I think it was 25 a night, which is like superb, right? And this is the Carrington, I think, that I got that deal on. But because I travel so much, I get a lot of points and things like that. But I think they're normally like 35 to 40 a night. And then again, like I said, that change. So you guys note total stay as a source. And like I said, they have like 7 to 9 different levels of accommodations, like all the way up to like really real luxury where you're going to be paying a penny. So you can go from that amount. Oh, they have hostels too. And their hostels are like hostel prices, like $10 a night, $17 a night. They do have that, not like the last place I was in Singapore where your hostels are minimum 50 a night and that might not even be clean. I'm gonna keep it real. Yeah, we'll talk about Singapore another day. But accommodations can go from that, depending on what you want, all the way up to. I was just looking at some places, and they were in Camps Bay, I believe. for like $900 a night. But they were like houses overlooking, hanging off a cliff, stuff like that. So I mean, you can have the gamut, so um everything is available. So whatever your budget is, I feel like Cape Town has it. Same with Joburg. And sometimes like I thought like Joburg would be a little less expensive because it just doesn't have all the flair that Cape Town has in terms of things to do. So from a touristy perspective, you would go and visit. And I'll share with you some of the touristy things on both sides that are available to do. But in terms of like nature, there's a few things. I'm gonna name a few things. Um, so I just because there's just not as much pool in Joburg even though it's a bigger place and bigger airport and all of that, Cape Town is like the face of South Africa. I mean, just to put it plainly, it's the place that everybody hears about first, right? A place that most of the people go. And so I expected Joburg to have lower cost housing, and they don't really. In essence, 30 plus 37, 40 a night, especially in the summertime. It's about the same price. In the winter, which they are heading into winter now. When I was leaving, it was literally starting to rain, and that was the last week of March. So our summer in the US is their winter. So their winter is rainy and I think, down to 17 Celsius, which is 50. Somebody said it gets down to 30, so like maybe down to 11, 9 or 11, but it's mostly rainy. It doesn't snow like in the city area, but if you get into the mountains, yeah, you'll see peaks probably of snow, that kind of thing. so, um, so yeah, I was from an accommodation standpoint, I don't know what I was expecting because 30 is really cheap. Um, and so it really just depends on what you're getting. But I found that in Joburg, there's a lot of new builds and things, and a lot of them, you know, maybe studio apartment kind of things, $70, $80 a night, which I thought it's comparable to the US, uh, but I would have expected it to be a little bit lower. I don't know. That's just that's my travel awareness because I go to so many different places. So I start ranking, based on what's available, accessibility and all those kinds of things. So from that perspective, eh, good, but not as low as I thought. Second thing is uh, food. So from a food perspective, yeah, you can get dirt cheap. Not I shouldn't say dirt cheap. Groceries are not bad. So, like I said, you got the levels. You got Pick and Pay, you got Spar, you got Checkers, and then you got Woolies. I actually like Checkers a lot because of their uh, options that they had, especially in like their deli area. I felt like that was better at Checkers than at Woolies. Woolies it's like different. Woolies is like more of um, um, a nature type kind of place. Like, so for me, it's great because I can get all of my vegetarian type things without worrying about too much of anything. Food prices are not bad. It's very reasonable. The dollar. Let me just tell you all that right quick. The dollar, the exchange is about 18 to 20 to 1. So 18 to 20 rand to 1 USD. So I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to go off memory. So like 100 would be about $5, right? And so it was really easy to get, coffees for $3, $4 on up. You know, it's easy to eat really low, uh, almost sometimes cheaper to eat lower. Go to a place and grab a meal. Uh, like at their markets, their markets are like if you guys have been to like Legacy Center in North Dallas. I think it's Plano, but how they have that big Legacy Center, and you go in and there's all those food courts. That's what a lot of their markets are like. So they have these indoor markets, and it's called a market, but it's food court, food trucks, food stalls, and live music and all that kind of stuff, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But it's sometimes cheaper to go in there and grab, uh, some goodies. Colette, yesterday the exchange was 19 to 1. Okay, so good. It's staying around the same. I feel like here our dollar has gained value because I'm spending. No, yeah, they're charging more bot for things here um, than before. So anyway, inflation. So that's the food. So yeah, you can. For me, I could get groceries and things like that without. I wasn't breaking the bank or anything. Easily could spend um, 30 a week, 35. Sometimes I try to set my max at 50, depending on where I am. If it's hard for me to get fruit and stuff, and they had an abundance of fruit. Now, maybe not like exotic fruits and things like that. Like, I get my jackfruit and stuff. I didn't find jackfruit. I may have been maybe one place where I saw jackfruit, but that was not a thing. So you get your basic fruits and stuff, but it was perfectly fine, and the prices were good. And then they have street markets, like little street markets and stuff that you can go to as well. The next thing would be, excuse me, transportation. Um, the next thing is transportation, and this is where that cost variance drop. So this is like when you're budgeting for an entire month. And these are some of the things I share when I do a one-on-one with you guys. And I assist you with getting started on your journey and trying to figure out, like, can you afford it? How much money you need? Because a lot of people ask me how much money you need, and everything really depends on your lifestyle. So you really have to sit down and write down what your spending is today, and then take at least 50% of that and say, okay, this is how much I'm going to allocate when I go. If you're wanting to start to cut down on things, ultimately for me, I want to be like a third of what I was spending, and I haven't gotten there yet because I keep moving around. So nomading is actually really expensive. Sitting in a place long term, dirt cheap, easier. So from a transportation standpoint, a lot of times you're going to use Uber unless you rent a car or whatever. And then I also use their public transportation. I have on my city card, which is easy to get. I don't know if I have a video on how to get your my city card, but I can do one. Um, and that's to use all of their public transportation, their buses, and they have one train. So it's really to use all their buses. Anywhere the bus my city line goes, you can use the card. And it was easy to load up. Once I found where I could load up, at first it was kind of hard, but finding locations you can load up. Once you do that, then everything is pretty easy. That was like pennies. Um, and I shouldn't say pennies. That's average, like other cities. Like I'm in Bangkok right now, and it's anywhere from 50, probably not the cheapest. I think probably the cheapest place I've traveled um, may have been Turkey on their tram. Um, I'm thinking. Uh, so yeah, the public transportation is cheap, and their Ubers are cheap. So for, let's say, 16 kilometers in Cape Town might only be 23 bucks, 30 bucks at the most. So like going even from Milnerton Sunset Beach down to the airport, it's only like 20, 30 bucks on average. If you go during rush hour, it's gonna be more. They hike up prices as well. Um, so yeah, it was easy to jump in Ubers and get to where you're going, and they have like basic Ubers to high class ups. Like most of the cars that were picking me up were um, Mercedes and BMWs, quite honestly. So and you're gonna get that both. You're gonna get that mostly in Cape Town. And Joburg, it's a combination of different types of cars, but they still have, like, basic level all the way up to shared bigger cars and bigger vans and things like that, and the price points are really similar as well. So really inexpensive. And I understand it because it's a service. And so that's where things, it kind of does suck though, because that means that they don't really pay very well from a service standpoint. So like in the US, and I or that the company is not taking advantage. So hopefully their top line, what they take, and I'm just sharing out loud. So like in the US, for example, an Uber from 45-minute Uber, which is about it's set 20 kilometers, maybe 26 kilometers. Because that's what it would take for me to get from DFW to where I was staying. Uh, on average, the lowest was 80. When I would get in, and also was time because I would come in, it would end up being later in the evening, up to $150, right? I've never seen any prices like that anywhere. I have not been to Dubai or traipsed around Qatar yet or anything like that. But I've never been in a place where it's that expensive. And so I feel like relatively that's where you're going to have your savings is in your transportation, and then the next thing, communication, so your data, uh, wi-fi, getting your sim cards and stuff like that can be really inexpensive. Like max really for they don't really have unlimited plans. Well, MTN, which is the yellow service, I use Vodacom pretty much everywhere I go if I find it, except Asia. I use AIS, which is Vodacom times 20. Um, but their Vodacom ranged from 12. They were having, I guess it was a sale. I didn't get in on it. I should have. Like $12 for 10 gigs for 30 days. And then it just went up 10, 20 gigs, 30 gigs to 50 gigs. And the last one was 100. And that was $23 for a whole month. 100 gigs for $23 for an entire month, right? So they don't have to do unlimited because for the most part, when you're inside your place, you're going to have Wi Fi, right? So you only need it when you're out and about, which is great if you are a content creator like myself, or you want to do lives out in the streets and stuff. So that's fantastic. But the price is great. When they're not having a sale, it's like 35 to $40, which is still cheap, right? As a foreigner, you do have to bring your passport, FYI, so that you can get, and physically, a lot of times they won't take a picture of your passport. They want the physical passport. So take that in with you and you can get a SIM card, get set up, and actually get a phone number. If you're going to be staying long term, on time, having an actual phone number there is really helpful. In some instances, most people use WhatsApp, but it is still nice to have an actual phone number when using some of the apps that they have. Okay, so those are the four main things where cost is associated. So those last two, including food, kind of supplement your housing costs. So you might pay a little bit higher on the housing um, for all the things that you want, but keep in mind most of the places come fully furnished, like you're in Asia or Europe. But on this end, the other amenities and things that you need are going to be less expensive, right? And then, of course, there's entertainment, which we'll talk about in a second. If you guys have other questions, please chime in, please ask. I am just going over things that I have chatted with people doing consultations on, and or things that I've covered in some of my other videos. So one of the other things that I was asked about, I'm just going to talk about, is the safety. This is a big thing. So if you're talking about moving to a place, or you're talking about visiting a place, safety always comes up because everybody wants to say anywhere in the world is unsafe and you can't go. Listen, you guys, I went to India and I was told don't walk around, don't go to Mumbai, don't go to Delhi. And let me tell you, the place I stayed at in Delhi, I totally had to put my game face on, my no fear face on. And then, once you get there and you're walking around, because it is daunting, and you realize how nice these people are. And I understand things happen. So I'm gonna say the same thing I said about, you know, every place that I've been, everyone has said, be mindful, don't go to Egypt. I have a whole video on Egypt. Um, y'all check it out. It's in my playlist, my Egypt playlist, 20,000 views on that one. And that was done like in 2021 when I went to Egypt for 3 weeks solo. Ended up meeting some people, but I went solo. Um, just like anywhere else in the world, be mindful. As a solo woman traveler, you always have to be mindful. I don't care where you are. Even if you're in a place where you're not like the type, like you're not what, people are looking for, that doesn't mean that you won't be, you won't encounter some other type of incident. I have only had one incident happen to me, and that was in on the coast in Colombia. And I do have a video that I share on that in Santa Marta. And that ultimately is the only time I experienced something that really shook me in my solo travel time that I've been out here exploring the world. So, South Africa, I feel like, yes, I didn't encounter anything. And I went to, I always say wrong, the community that is closest to the CPT airport, the Cape Town airport. Nyanga, I think is how it's pronounced. And we went and one of my friends has a close relationship with someone who does a lot of work in that community. He lives in that community, from that community. And so I went with the organization, Just a Little Helps, and walked around the community and supported the local people, met local people who are just gracious and fantastic. Uh, and of course, yes, it was daylight, so there were no issues or anything like that. I think people have this perception that in certain places they always try to say when you're in Africa you're gonna have gangs and all this other stuff, and I'm like, but we have that stuff in the U.S. We have, and even if we don't have gangs, 'cause everyone wants to associate it with gangs, right? But we don't talk about um, mass shootings. We don't, and that happened in the U.S. on a regular basis. We don't talk about the other types of brutality, police shootings, and traffic stop things that end up being murders from a traffic stop. We don't talk about all that kind of stuff. We don't talk about our access to guns. That's one of the things that did surprise me. Most of the time, every place that I've been around the world, nobody has gun access like the United States citizens. And South Africa is one of those places where local people can get guns. And you hear about things here and there, but when I do more research, I always find that it's usually a place that, I mean, why would you be there? If you're not a local, if you're not from that community, like, why would you be there? Of course, yes, things happen. You're like, well, Sea Point and Cape Town, Sea Point, Camps Bay, those areas, they're really ritzy, but they don't have like barbed wire around their homes there. Um, that's usually how I gauge things, is if people have to have like that type of security, then it might be an area that maybe gets hit. Um, and you can look up online to see what types of crime they do have. Yes, they do have things that happen there. Um, just like any other place. But right now, I think South Africa is being like highlighted because of the tumultuous relationship with the musky guy, and then the Trumpster that is trying to jump in on that bandwagon. And so there's a lot of heightened awareness around South Africa right now. Um, a lot of fear mongering that goes around, but I will say be vigilant. Be mindful of your surroundings. And one of the things cannot stress enough is if you are in communities where the people clearly uh, don't have the access that you have, don't have the means that you have, to not go and flaunt yourself and what you have in those communities. I mean, like, it's kind of like common sense, right? Don't go and wear Gucci and Prada and all this and blinged out and walk around Nyanga and then not expect someone to look and go, first of all, it's offensive. And then, to not even have common sense or wherewithal about yourself in terms of, caring about where other people are. Um, so don't flaunt yourself, don't put yourself out there. And also try to do, you know, if you're going to be staying in a place long term, fit in. And what I mean by that, I'm not saying, oh, everybody's like, oh, well, we've done that all the time. We always try to fit in and not be ourselves. I'm not saying don't be yourself. What I'm saying is leave some of the gaudiness at home. Like, don't even bring it. Like, I don't have half of my stuff. And I've never been like a flashy kind of person, but I've seen the flash. But I will tell you this: Cape Town, the waterfront area, Camps Bay, all of that, like, that's where you can, like, up it a little bit if you want, but even those people, like, that live in those communities, they don't walk around and look like, you know, a walking bank account, you know what I'm saying? It is something that Americans do, I mean, yeah, and you go to other countries and you'll be someone will say, "Yeah, but in Dubai, they do this, and in parts of Egypt, they do this, and parts of Ghana, they are like this and they flaunt, they wear their rings." I get it. I get that. What I'm saying is if you don't want to be a target, don't make yourself a target. Do I put everything on the onus of a person? No, but we do have control. And so for me, I want to avoid as much as possible. I already know that for the most part, I look like I am a tourist. Even though I'm black and in Africa, it's the craziest thing. I will tell you guys this: South Africa's no different. Um, I don't look anywhere that I am, no one thinks that I'm indigenous. It's actually really sad, because I do want to look like I belong somewhere, like I fit in somewhere, and the closest has been like the Asia side, like Hong Kong, and that's a mixed melting pot. But from Africa's perspective, I'm starting to feel like I'm from South Africa because of the melting potness of it all. But East Africa, I'm really feeling a connection to in terms of DNA ancestry. But everywhere I go, like, this is before I speak, but they say the way that I look, and it's not just my complexion, because there's light skinned people everywhere, especially in South Africa, because it's so mixed. But like, they immediately, they don't always say American, but they'll say like a European country or something like that. And I'm like, and I get why they say that because of the migration and movement, um, by whatever means, whether it was, enslavement or uh, great migrations happening in and about, the African continent to Asia and Europe, and wars and things like that that moved us all around. So a lot of times they think like Amsterdam, because that's another melting pot place, UK, of course, but a lot of times they don't necessarily think American until I actually speak. And then they're like, they know that accent. Alexa, yesterday we went to Soweto, and the thing I noticed was little children, 3, 4, and 5 years old, walking around alone. I live in a gated community in Cali, and I did not allow my children to catch the bus. Coleto, how many places have you been in Africa? Like, what other countries have you been to? And the reason I say this, because the rest of the world allows their kids to walk around. Is trafficking everywhere? Yes, it actually is. But the United States actually is like, has like the number one and two um spots in trafficking because of the supplying to the rest of the world, so on and so forth. And so it's not any better there. But in Kenya, well, okay, so in Tanzania, going to Kenya, I rode a bus across the border. And they have this process where they have local kids that are going to and from school. And when I'm saying these are babies, like they are like maybe 3, 4, 5 years old, like you mentioned, walking along the highway, the Obama highway, that's what they call it. There's a highway, a beautiful highway built between Kenya and Tanzania. And you'll see these kids walking in their little uniforms and their little backpacks out by themselves, walking them like they on the highway. They also have a process where the buses, like these coach buses, will stop, pick up the kids, and the kids ride to the next village, the next town, or whatever. And the parents or someone, whoever, a guardian, is there to pick them up. They do the same with shipping things. Like I had my things shipped from Tanzania on a bus to me in Kenya. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But I saw that in Egypt at night. You're like, okay, I'm out here. I'm thinking I'm out here with grown folks, and as kids, like the median thing in the middle of the street. Now, if you've been to Egypt and you've been to like Cairo, you understand how crazy this is because they drive like mad people in Egypt. Like their speed limit must be 100 minimum. Period. You cross at your own risk. Period. I don't even think there's stoplights. Period. Until there's like a cross street or something. Like they're like kids in the median playing soccer. And I'm like, your soccer game gotta be football. Your football game gotta be good for that ball not to go into the street. And I think I even have video. But they are always around, walking around. Even in Mexico, you see kids walking around by themselves. When I had my grandson there last year, I let him go and do some things by himself. I was like cross street watching vigilantly. Um, but, going to the store, going shopping, going and dropping off the laundry, stuff like that. In Japan, either Japan or Korea, they have a, program where the kids wear yellow. They wear like a yellow hat or jacket, but I think it's a yellow hat, and they walk to school, and so they catch the buses, the trains, and stuff by themselves, and so when people see kids with the yellow hat, they know that that kid is traveling solo and to help that child out, if they need help, so they look after them and that kinda thing. I'll tell you why I like living abroad because all the things that we have that are so taboo for us in the States, like we don't do anything. We don't let our kids, we don't, there's so much crime, there's so much this, and none of the stuff, the protection that we give actually, you know, and they do help because I think we're just like, we're in a time of craziness now. But also, you know, I think we need to go back to teaching awareness and teaching the skill sets of how to survive. That's something that I don't think we do very well at all. It looked like the community was looking out for the babies. It was amazing. This is my first I'm so excited. Do you see my excitement? Oh my God. I love when somebody tells me it's their first time and they're going back. Oh, congratulations. That is fantastic. Well, I hope you love South Africa, and just the African continent in general. I can tell you some places to go to get like acclimated, to to explore, and then how easy it is to move around the continent as well. It's Mm, okay, another conversation for another day. It reminds me of when I was a little girl. We used to walk to and from school as little kids alone. Me and my brother did too. And we played outside all night in the creek without a worry in the world. But then again, I'm almost 60 years old. I'm in my early 50s and things are different. It is really different. Um, and like I said, like the main thing is we have to be more protective, but we also, I think we go back to teaching those skill sets so that when our kids get out on their own, they do have some awareness and they're not so shocked when they go places and other kids are, have been doing things forever. Because I feel like when I started this journey, this nomadic journey 5 years, almost 5 years ago, I'm coming up on my 5 years. Um, I was like a kid, a deer in headlights, like people been doing this for 25 years, 30 years, or obviously longer, like people my age have been moving around different countries since they were 20. I'm sitting there like, because it's a whole different world, a whole different mindset in Europe. Why? Because their countries are like our states. They just speak a different language in each one. But it's super cheap to fly around, to catch trains. Like their system of mobility is completely different. And I'm hoping that Africa is moving towards that. Africa as a continent is moving towards that, where the people on the continent, the indigenous, be the people who live here, because I feel like I'm indigenous. I just got to figure out from where. But I feel like the people who are physically citizens in on the continent, the indigenous ones, not everybody else, because somehow they have easy mobility. And I'm talking about Europeans have easy mobility and Asians around the continent of Africa where the indigenous people don't. Like I talk to so many people who don't have passports, can't get passports, have to be sponsored to go to the next country where, they have strife with each other. Tanzania and Kenya, don't like each other. And when they're crossing borders, oh, we don't cross, we don't like all this silliness. It's crazy. And I'm like, what if the entire continent could move about freely? As long as you can show that you are a resident um, of a particular country on that continent, you should be able to move around, right? Like it should be states to them, not different countries to them. Um, we grew up in Tulsa. Communities and neighborhood families look out for. That's back in the day. However, I'm in my 75th summer of life. That is amazing. So wait a minute. We need to have a whole conversation, Marilyn, about did I so I got short term, so you probably told me before in a comment. Were you around 75 years ago? Let me think. When was that? Was 1921. Okay, so no, you weren't around. But are there were there remnants of the massacre? Conversation for another day. I know I'm on South Africa. But yeah, in general, I feel like more a lot of communities are like that, and you'll see that, and you'll think that these kids are like feral. You'll be like, oh, they must not have a home. Oh, they must be homeless. No, they're not. They're perfectly fine. They might beg, they might ask you for something, but for the most part, no, they are fine, minding their own business, living life, learning different things. Kids be out here kite surfing and they literally know how to function in the world and usually can assist us because we are so pampered. We don't know how to navigate in these spaces. So that's one of the things I will say is a beautiful thing about South Africa that I experience, as well as other uh, countries and communities on the continent itself, and just on this eastern side of the world in general. All right, so let's get back. Let me see what time it is. Okay. So I want to finish by 10. Okay. Guys, what else? Yes, thank you, Marilyn. What else do you guys want to hit on? All right, so people ask about safety. Okay, 420 friendly people about Cape Town and Johannesburg. It is 420 friendly. I don't know the exact rules of their 420 friendliness, but they do have cannabis shops pretty much everywhere. If you are in the Sea Point area, there's a well-known one, actually affiliated with my my friend that's there, and it's called Cannabisters. I don't partake per se. I mean, I haven't done edibles in it's probably been a couple of years. That's the most that I do. I'm not a smoker, but I know quite a few people who do partake, and it's a part of their lifestyle. And so, it's one of the questions that they ask is, I would love to come, I would love to visit, but what's the rule? First of all, don't travel with it, y'all. In the places that have shops and stuff that you can buy stuff in, just buy it when you get there, please. Y'all, please stop getting on a plane. We should have learned a lot from Brittany at this point. Please don't put it in your checked luggage, don't put it in anything because just don't do it. Don't do the cannabis, don't do the oils, none of that stuff. Most of the places, if you're going to go, you're going to do the research and find out whether or not it is a 420 friendly place. And if it's 420 friendly, just get your things when you go there. It's probably a lot cheaper than getting it in the States anyway. Um, so do that. A lot of places don't, a lot of times traveling, they don't even allow you to have vaping pens. You can't put it in your checked luggage. You're not supposed to bring it on the plane. They're going to confiscate it. So get the stuff when you get there. There are so many places that have this stuff. So I'm just giving you that tip so that you don't run into any issues as when you're traveling. Because then you'll say, "But if it's 420 friendly, why can't I travel with it?" Because you can't travel with it. You can't. You can't put it on a plane. It won't let you. If you get away with it once, be thankful. But don't cause yourself any grief by carrying your 420s with you. One thing I noticed is that they do not have toilet covers in the public restrooms in London or Joburg. Is this a US thing? So let me say this because in Johannesburg is the first place I saw that had the flushable tops where you can't flush the toilet, it doesn't flush until you close the top. And the top has the latch that release and it's a pressure thing. And that was at Rosebank in Rosebank Mall. So let me think about this. Everywhere I was at in Cape Town had toilet seat cup. Um, but I have been somewhere that didn't have them. And I think it's because it's just an extra thing and sometimes they break and so they just take them off. And by toilet seat cover, you mean the thing that closes, right? The 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 part that closes. And I guess in all honesty, why do you need it? For the most part, who closes the toilet in places? And I hate when the toilet is closed because then I can't see if when you walk into the stall and you decide if you're gonna go in there, because then you gotta go touch the toilet, lift it up to see because there's a reason that top is closed. I don't know, that's just me. So it might just simply be because it's not necessary. It's an extra thing for staff to clean. Um, Nobody closes the toilet top. I mean, I don't even touch them. I just carry small tissues packages all the time. Listen, ooh, I saw this cool thing. I don't have an extra I don't have an extra bag. I would show you. So somebody took um like a grocery bag and they folded it up, they folded it in half and then folded it in half again and then they cut a circle part out of the middle. Like you know how you do on snowflakes at school, you cut the center. So there's a hole in the middle, you open it up and it's a hole with the hooks, and you take it and you fit it over the toilet seat that you're gonna sit on so you could sit on the toilet. Because not everybody also has like the automated like plastic things, which I don't like to sit on anyway, because you can't prove to me that it's cleaned and that it gets thrown away. So I'm like, I don't trust that either. Um, Squat and hold the wall. Squat and hold the wall. And even then I'm like, put something on my hands because you don't know. Like, I'm not a germaphobe, but I swear, like, I'm so conscious of these things nowadays. But yeah, so, and you guys, if you want to know, yes, Cape Town has Western toilets. I don't think I saw any Asian style squatting toilets there, but of course, when you come to Asia, a lot of places have the option, but most places are going Western. But you do realize, like, the Western toilet is so ergonomically incorrect. Have you guys noticed that if you ever use the restroom, like now they make the steps so you can elevate your feet because your bottom should be lower in order to have the best release and removal cleansing system? That's how, we should actually, our feet should be up here more so, or at least this level. And that's why now they have those stools where you put your feet up. So when you're going to the restroom. Anyway, TMI, too much information. Yes, carry your wipes and carry a plastic bag from the grocery store with the cutout holes in it already. Okay. All right, y'all. So let's get to the entertainment. So we talked about language. We talked about conversion. We've talked about cost for transpo, accommodations, food, and communication. talked about quite a few things. We just talked about the environment, the atmosphere. Um, Couple of things of note before I get into the entertainment part. Um, they have a thing called load shedding. Now, anybody who's from South Africa who's on, please chime in because I was only there January through March, through the end of March, and I was there during load shedding season, which means that they shed the load. So they have scheduled outages. And they actually have a website that tells you, like, it breaks down every uh, area, like they're zoned, and it'll tell you what time slots. And I'm telling you, they are accurate. They are on point with what time they load shed, what time they shut it down. And a lot of times when I was there, it wasn't right in the beginning. It was in March. So, which is really interesting because it's at the end of the summer. Um, I guess it's at the height of the summer, so maybe that's why, because there's so many people visiting. Probably going into winter, they do a lot less load shedding because people start to leave. So anyway, there were times where it was multiple times a day. Um, so when you go, the tip that I have for that is to make sure that before you rent a place, whether it's a hotel, long-term stay in a house, is that you ask about their load shedding and their backup systems. So um, maybe the power goes out from, like, lights and that stuff, but is the Wi-Fi on a backup system? So let's say you're working or you're on calls or whatever the case may be, and you need data during that time, and you're 6 hours ahead, 7 hours ahead of a client in the States, or just talking to your kids, whatever the case may be, or talking to your parents, and you're 6 hours ahead, 7 hours ahead. So something comes over at, you know, 2 a.m. your time. So you're not going to go to the coffee shop or anything like that. You live in a high rise that has a mall in it, the mall always has lights on. So one of the things that I realized is a lot of the places always have their Wi-Fi on backup. So you want to at least be in a place that has backup for the Wi-Fi, and or like they have the basic like hall lights and stuff so it doesn't completely shut down. If you're in a house on your own, it's going to go out unless you have a generator or backup. Right. So you want to ask that question, um, and then ask about um, any costs associated with, if you're in a house, costs associated with maintaining the backup system, right? Different things like that. If you're going to be long term renting, a lot of times, just making sure that that maintenance is something that is going to be maintained. And if you're buying a property, you want to make sure that that is already set up. You want boreholes, um, and you want, where water can be pulled from, and you want backup systems. You can add generators and stuff to your homes, but if it's already part of it, it makes it even easier, right? So just an FYI about the load shedding. Um, we got to be as creative as absolutely, we sure do. Especially, we got to sit down sometimes. Sometimes your legs be like, listen, squat is not for today. Um, so let's talk about activities. Let's just talk about the vibrancy of Cape Town. Well, let me give you a quick comparison about Joburg. So I haven't really talked about Joburg except a few little pieces here and there. So for me, Cape Town is my choice. Um, Partly because there is an energy that I feel in Cape Town that I don't get at all in Johannesburg. And there's a darkness in Johannesburg. Like, and what I mean is just atmosphere, which is really weird because it's really clean, really breathable, and all that. But it just feels darker there um, than um, than in Cape Town. Like Cape Town, and I don't know if it's just more open, even in the downtown area. Like there's just, and it might be energy related. It might be because of the surge closeness to the water, something of that nature. But I'm in Bangkok, and I feel it when I'm here. Like I have this energy, enlightened energy feeling when I'm here, which is really strange because I'm not by water. So Joburg, I didn't get that aha feel. And maybe it's the time of the year. I could probably go back, summertime again next year and maybe, whatever. I don't know. But just didn't feel it. Um, I'm also it was just in just in general, the access to things, um, and every community is different. But when you go to Cape Town first and you've been there for a month and a half, and then you go to Joburg, so I was used to the access to the mountains, the access to the hiking trails, the access to the walking trails, the access to the promenades, the access to the, you obviously don't know why this keeps going out. It went out again. But they have all of those types of things, right? Um, in Joburg, but it wasn't the same. Like the amenities for me weren't the same. And a lot of people are like, yeah, but you go to Joburg because you got the people who, the entertainment center, the livelihood, the parties, and I was like, but where is it at? Because we were in Rosebank, which was like heavily populated. I know like that's outside of the city, but everybody says don't go downtown. Plus, when you look for attractions in Joburg, nothing's downtown. Like there's not a lot to see in the city. I went to the Apartheid Museum, which is a must see. You guys have to go to the Apartheid Museum. If you want to know anything about the history and you want it raw and real, I didn't even finish it. Like I have to go back and finish the the um the permanent exhibit. Like we did the temporary exhibit that they had, and we were there for 3 hours. They tell you 2.5 hours is enough if you do a tour because they rush you through and point out the things that they want to see. But if you truly want to be immersed, and I feel like as a black person, it is it's tough. It's tough because for you walk in and they give you a ticket to you if you white or black, if you colored or white, colored or European, whatever it says. And colored is anything other than European. So if you're Asian, you're considered colored. If you're black, you're on the colored side, but they also differentiate. Just a heads up about South Africa. South Africa has three categories. They say it's not race or it is race. It's racism, but they call it colorism. So you got whites, which is like European descendant, and then colors, which is anyone that has any mixed race in them. So they would call me colored. Um, but they also call me black because of my hair. So then there's darker complexion or hereditary, like they can see. So if my hair wasn't like if I had the curly, like when I first locked my hair was really, really curly, I would be like, oh, you must be mixed. But my hair now is like fully locked. So a lot of people think Rasta and all that. I'm like, no, it's just locks. I'm not a Rasta. But I mean, I love Jamaicans, or whatever. So they do have those classifications and they do call you by it. And I mean, so don't be offended or anything like that. It's a great conversation. Um, Starter or just a place because they're very open to most people are very open talking about it because it's a reality, and that's one of the things that I actually do love about South Africa is because the native people, the indigenous people, do not shy away from it. At least I didn't meet any that shied away, and they make little snarky comments like they understand the discrepancy between the 93% that live there versus the 7% that have control uh, over infrastructure and livelihood and stuff like that. Like they know, they understand, and they're open to talk about it, not in a like vindictive way. Like they don't even talk about it like they're mad, so to speak, but rightfully concerned and ready for change to happen. Right. And so the Apartheid Museum really points that out. So now we're kind of into the entertainment part. People ask me, what is there to do? So in Joburg, that is one of the things. Colette, you mentioned that you went to Soweto. So we didn't do Soweto. We didn't walk through the village and see Mandela's house or anything like that. We did the Apartheid Museum. Like I said, only half of it, and it is so informative. It has that eerie feeling like the Loretta Motel Hotel in Tennessee. It has that feeling, right? You might shed a tear honestly. It's really tough, and it's even tougher when you associate the timing of the end of apartheid, which was just 1994, y'all. Do the math. That's 30 years ago, right? 31 years ago. Um, and so it's very fresh for a lot of people. Uh, hold on, let me get to my list. So you have that, you have Soweto, and then you have some other museums and things like that to see. There's actually a big park there called the Zoo Park Zoo. So I don't know if there's an actual zoo there, but there's a lake and it's a big park that you can walk around, and that is over in it's I stayed in this area, Parkview area, which is the first place I stayed at when I went to Johannesburg, and it's more of a suburby kind of, but it's not like upscale suburban. Like it's nice, and you can walk around. And I stayed in a treehouse, is a container home, really nice. And so I just took a picture in front of the museum today. We didn't go in. My driver said that we could ask for a white card if we didn't want to be separated by race. Um, but you don't have to because you end up in the same place. So when you walk in, I'll explain it to you, Colette. So when you walk in, there's a door for blacks and a door for whites. I was about to set it off as soon I was like, "They not about to." I was like, "Really?" Because I wasn't expecting it's on your ticket. And so at first when you think when you walk in, you're gonna walk in. So let's say you go with somebody who gets so it's me and my friend, and both of us are black. We're both the same complexion. I got a black or colored, and she got white. So it's like random. They just give you, but you walk in and you get different like kind of story information. You get ID stuff, so you kind of see what it was like, what they had to show on their side. But then when you come out, you end up in the same place. Like as soon as you walk out, you one walks up a ramp, one goes up the stairs, and you walk right outside, and you come together. And so you do everything together. Because I literally thought I was like, okay, yeah, you do your part, I'm gonna do mine because maybe it's a different experience. It's not. It's only through the initial door that you walk. So, yeah. I know you laughing at me. I was, man, listen, I did a short, and I was like, I posted on Instagram. I was like, this how they gonna start? I'm like scared militant sometimes. Like if I get on a roll, like y'all be like, okay, oh, okay, Muhammad. That's probably why I go by Ali, because Ali, like Muhammad Ali was like, he was militant. He had a mouth on him too. I'm like, y'all not about to put me in jail in another country because I might say something I ain't got no business saying. So anyway, Joburg, hold on, I got my list. There wasn't a whole lot in Joburg itself. Now we did go to Pretoria. Pretoria has other things in it as well. So I'm not speaking about Pretoria or anything around it. But I also understand that there's pockets in Joburg, but you got to drive like 45 minutes, an hour away, and you'll get to some of these places where these beautiful resorts are. That's not in Joburg proper. It's like not in that area. You got to like drive or take the train. They have trains there. They have a huge train system, trains and buses. And so you can actually go into the outskirts of town and stuff like that, which I did not do. So I won't speak on um, those places, but I do want to check it out because I want to understand, like, what is the drive? But most people who talk about Joburg talk about like in the city, like how much they love what it feels like, in those like that Rose Bank and Park View. And then the second time I actually stayed in Melville by myself and went out to have dinner, and they were having a power outage, load shedding. And I mean, it was the people are so awesome. I stayed in a place um right off of like 6th Street, which is like the street you walk up and down, and like all the bars, all the stuff, everything is there. First place I was like mindful about my cell phone being out and that kind of thing. And I wanted to take more pictures and video, but it was at night. And so I didn't know anything yet. And um when I walked home, I walked down the street to my like guest house that I'm staying, which was only like 2 doors down from the main street. It was dark, but I was there and we had 24 hours. Somebody was at the door, at the desk 24 hours. And it was a guest house. Super cute, you know, um, older, but super cute and black owned is what they told me. But one of the things that I did learn from, or that, kind of um, struck my heart a little bit. I was talking to one of the staff members that was there. She was preparing the food, and they also do all the check. So they're like a one shop fits all. So they do everything. They can check you in and do all the, management and care of the establishment. So anyway, she was just talking about South Africa as a whole. And she was just talking about, she made the comment that, it's so poor and they don't have anything, and, there's nothing there in South Africa. And she finished, and I was just like, let me share something with you. I said, if there was nothing here, we wouldn't be here. And you all wouldn't be fighting 7% of the population to get back what's yours, right? Um, and she never thought about it from that perspective. I said, Africa as a whole is so wealthy. Africa can do without any other country, any other um, any other continent. Africa could literally stand on its own by itself. And this is not going to be like a political conversation, but I'm saying Africa doesn't need anyone. We were developing and building and creating well before we were infiltrated by other groups stating that they were coming over to help build the infrastructure that the indigenous people don't get to take advantage of. They get to work there, they get to work for people, but they're not expected to live there and enjoy the prosperity of their land. That don't make any sense. So people didn't come there to assist them. They didn't get all these big loans for them. They got loans for the European or the Asian, whoever people came over, and some American, um, uh, whether it's North or Central or South American, people who came over and took advantage, took that land, prospered, and built the infrastructure, but they built it for themselves. They built it for the people that they wanted to come over and manage it and have their business. And they didn't do it for indigenous people. So I just told her, I said, no, you live in a continent, a country full of wealth and riches, which is why everyone is here pillaging from it. And her face was just like, wow, I never thought about that. Because they're so programmed to believe that they're poor. You're not poor. You might be in a personally disadvantaged state, but your continent is not poor. And if it is, it's because everyone is taking from it, especially if you have tourism there. What are they coming to see if it's poor, right? Okay, so anyway, whoo, that kind of stuff, like that hurt, like it literally grabbed my heart when she said it, and I was like, don't you ever feel that? Don't you ever? I said, there's too many people around the globe taking from Africa for you to believe that you're poor, this nation is poor, this continent is poor. It is not. Y'all could survive millions of years without the assistance or help of anybody else. And actually develop your own countries yourself with what you already know and knew beforehand. All right, so let's get to the entertainment stuff. All right, much time I got? Oh, I'm gonna go over my 2 hours because I want to share some other places that you guys should consider visiting. So, um, so I mentioned a few things about Cape Town or about Johannesburg. So let's go to Cape Town. Um, the reason why I like Cape Town, Table Mountain, right out the gate. Now, Table Mountain, everybody thinks of taking the cable car up. Now, the cable car up and down by itself is like 80 something bucks, right? I think it's like 83 one way USD. Um, or it's a combination tour. So they have it mixed with, you know, seeing the seals or going to Cape Hope or whatever, right? It becomes $150, $200 thing or whatever. Um, you can now most people do that who want to get to the top. I haven't been to the top yet, because I was trying to climb it and didn't make it and had to go back down, which was even scarier. That's a whole nother story in of itself. I need to post a video about that because it was just a lot. And whenever I get this combination thing working with my laptop and sharing videos, I'll probably actually just do a live and show the videos as I talk through them, or I'll create a video and post it. Anyway, there's millions of trails, tons of different mountains in different communities. You can be in Hout Bay and beat. That's not called Table Mountain. It's got another name. Signal Hill is something else where they do paragliding. So there's paragliding, which is something that I love. I didn't get to do it this time because I waited until rainy season and windy season and they had shut it down. So I miss doing that. So you can do that. Kite surfing is another big thing if you're into the water, into surfing. You can do it in the bays or you can actually do it on the coast where the waves are crazy. So, thing about South Africa, specifically Cape Town, that makes it so unique, it is where, at the point, it is where the Indian Ocean on the east meets the freezing and frigid Atlantic Ocean to the west, and they come together. Right? It's super cool. I didn't actually see. I was down in Musenberg, but you can't really tell. I think you kind of have to be out a little bit to maybe see if that's where that water line is. Um, Cape Town also has so you've got that. You have the different landscapes. So inside Table Mountain, you can also go to they have a botanical garden. There is a cost. It's like $11, 11 USD, which isn't expensive, but I feel like it's expensive if you want to go every day because from the botanical garden, it's just like a myriad of paths. It's just so lush and green. It's beautiful. So if you've been to, I just came from Singapore and they have a botanical garden and it's free. And it's huge. Yeah, when I say huge, it is huge. You can go every day for free. I was 5 minutes from that park, so it was something that I did on a regular basis, right? And then it fed into a preserve, which was also free, right? So I love places that are free, and I wish it's called Kirstenbosch. I wish that was free, like there was no charge, or maybe they only charge if there's a concert event or something like that. So they do concerts on the lawn. They do all those kinds of things, kind of like when you're in Chicago, and Chicago has I can't think of the place we used to go to all the time. Somebody from Chicago chime in, and we would do like the jazz events, the Night of the Stars. They would do the movie things in this one area. It was like a botanical garden thing. I can't think of the name of it, but anyway, it's like that, like, it has that feel, and it's just beautiful, and then the view of Table Mountain, Signal Hill, air it's amazing, right? But they also have all of these amazing hiking trails throughout. Like, I hiked them by myself, and I hiked them with my best travel buddy, my brother, when I first got there, and I did it solo, like, I didn't realize, like, people are like, "You shouldn't hike by yourself," and stuff like that, and I guess people could be living out there because it's open 24/7, technically, um and I was a little leery when I did the steeple one that starts with an S, because I was going to a gorge where there's supposed to be a waterfall, but it was dry season, so it was dry, and I was like, "I have not seen a soul in an hour," and I had been hiking for a minute, hadn't seen a soul, and then eventually, like, I saw 2 people, and I was, like, leery because I was like, "Let me make sure ain't nobody trying to throw me off a ledge or anything like that," but, so peaceful and so beautiful, so that's, like, a thing, and it's easy to get there. You could take a bus, you can actually do a hop on, hop off bus, and it goes directly up to the point where you can take the cable car or you can hike it. The hike is no joke. Do not take any Indian Vinster. You might die. And it actually says that on the sign. The waterfront is amazing. It is, even if you are not, it's great as a tourist, but it's also great just to go to as a resident. There's the watershed, you can go and you can work inside. It's like a co living space. Similar to what I'm gonna go to at True Digital here in Thailand. You can go and you can get Wi-Fi, you can get coffee, you can get food, you can whatever, walk around, and then you got the seals that are there on the pier, and they're gonna greet you, and they're sleeping and all that smell like seals. But you, like, literally can walk around this entire area and be right on the water's edge. You could take a bus directly there. I mean, it's everything is so, accessible. Then you have the winelands. So all of these things that I've mentioned to you are free, except Kirstenbosch Botanical Garden, which you can avoid, right? Waterfront is free. The winelands, you actually pay for the vineyards. They have um, wine tours that you can take, and you get they usually include about 4 wineries that you can go to, or you could just take an Uber. Like, everybody's like, just pair up with some people and jump in an Uber and go at your own pace and pick the ones you want. And I understand that there's 3 Black-owned wineries there, and I do have a list of them somewhere. I will get them and try to remember to put them in this video. So you can do that without doing an actual tour, okay? Um, and that's in the Stellenbosch and Franschhoek. I don't know how to say it, y'all. Franschhoek areas. I don't know. So there's some wineries over there. Um, Oh, Durban was the area that I was thinking of that started with a D. You can also go to Port Elizabeth, and they have the Elephant National Park. Now that's further. You're gonna have to like get a car or because you can't necessarily fly in. You can fly to Durban, and maybe that's closer. They also have some caves because I'm a cave excavator. Like I want to be a cave excavator when I grow up, and it's called the Congo Caves. That is in the southern part of South Africa. Um, from Cape Town again, Robben Island. Yeah, Robben Island. I was like, is it Robbins or Robin? Robben Island is where Nelson Mandela was held, imprisoned, wrongfully imprisoned for 27 years. And it is like when you are on Table Mountain, you can actually see it and it looks much closer. It actually is only like 2 kilometers away. But y'all, let me warn you in advance. Yes, there's a cost for it. It's not super expensive. I think it's like $80, $85. I guess that's kind of expensive for a tour, but that includes the boat ride, the ferry over, the ferry back, and the tour. And I'll explain it in another video, but just be mindful that that boat ride ain't no joke, especially the boat ride coming back. If you do like the 1 o'clock, or if it's a day that it's supposed to storm, oh my God, carry your throw up bag. Even if you don't have motion sickness, you might get it that. What else? Whale watching you can do. Boulder Beach, where the penguins are. You can go and do that by yourself. Just take a taxi or Uber down. You don't have to do a whole tour. Cape of Good Hope, and where that lighthouse is, that's on the furthest most peak of South Africa in Cape Town area. You can go down there and check it out. Muizenberg is another place where you'll see a lot of surfers like that. The surf town of uh, the Cape Town area. And then where they have those colored houses. So there's these row houses, and I don't know if they're rentable or if they're for uh, disenfranchised people. I hate saying homeless because I'm home free. Like I don't own like a home space anymore. But and I think that's who they're for. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's really neat to see. So it's a row of homes along the coast on both sides that are all colored. They're like all the primary colors, so it stands out. It's really noticeable. But you'll see tons of surfers out there. Usually regular surfers, kite surfers. Feel like I saw more in the Blauberg area along that um, Atlantic Sea coast. So you could do that by yourself without a tour. You will need a boat ride if you go over to the Seal Island. What is it called? I don't know if I have the name of that, but if there's you could take a boat ride over and it's like 300 rand, 350 rand, which is like $12 to $15, something like that. It may be less. Um, always you would love what video, Marilyn? Which one? The one about, Robben Island? So Penguin Beach, Cape Point, Cape of Good Hope, you can literally you could also take a bus. If you're into just like getting your bus pass and riding it, you can get unlimited for 7 days for like 200 Rand, which is dirt cheap. If you know you want to just explore, their buses are clean. Usually, I had to get on one where somebody like dumped a whole bag of chips on the floor, but typically really clean, easy to ride. Now, there's seats all on there. So if you got big kids, just FYI. I don't know who they made these seats for because Africans, South Africans, indigenous Black South Africans, you know, we we they hippie down there. Some of them. Let's see. Those are some of the main things, y'all. Okay, and then outside of that, entertainment. So we went to a sing along at it was supposed to be at one of the markets in town, but apparently they sold so many tickets and it was packed. I think I probably didn't post it on YouTube, but it's on my Instagram. It's a sing along, and so basically it was all R&B. So their music that they play is American R&B music for the most part. They do have like their beats music, like their Afro beats. They have it's a certain sound, but it's very similar. I think they kind of piggyback off of other countries and stuff. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if they have like their own specific sound, but there's Afro beats that they play as well. But there's a lot of R&B. Like you're gonna hear R&B everywhere. So anyway, it was a sing along that we were at, and it was a '90s sing along. What the hell about '90s sing along? We was in there jamming all night long. Not that. That's like '80s. But you know what I'm saying? Like it was dope, y'all. Really young people in there, but also, I mean, I was there, and I was probably maybe I was the oldest person. Who knows? But I had a great time. I had a great time. Um, so they have that. They have, like I said, all of these markets where uh, the one is called Mojo Market, which is in Sea Point. They have live music, so they have a stage that's set up, and this is like every night they have live music. Then you, and basically, it's a free establishment to go in. Tons of food options, from your vegan, vegetarian to your meat eating, pizza, drinks, bars, everything. A level up top where you can sit and look out, and I don't know if you could see the water from up top. I can't remember. I can't remember because there's also apartments in the Mojo Market. Like they're always listed. I was like, nah, it's too many food places. I don't want to be, staying where there's that much food because you're liable to have little critters running around for sure. Um, I don't know if they do or not. I'm not trying to knock them, but yeah, it's too many food places in there. But it's very clean. Even when like before they open, you walk around before like all the stalls open up. It is super clean. You can't smell anything or anything like that. But it's that's one they have a lot of those. So they're like mini waterfronts without the mall part, right? And so it's actually really cool to go to. So they have those, and then of course you got the whole beach. So you got all of the beach areas, you got the promenade that you can walk along, and then one of the unique things that they have is, and this is something that they have in Iceland, like you're like, okay, it's not the same. But in Iceland is they have these pools that are by the water. And so they have along Camps Bay and Sea Point, you'll see these actual either like they're mixed saltwater and freshwater pools. And people go and you swim in them so you don't have to actually go out into the ocean, which is really nice. And then of course when the tide comes in, it may cover them a little bit more or whatever, but they're literally pools that are built right on the coast and they're open to the public. So you can go down there and swim in them. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I don't know if I'm forgetting something else because those are the major things that I listed. And all of those things, literally, only if you have an associated cost to actually go to. Oh, then there's like the slave lodge inside the slave lodge inside in CBD area, the green market. Um, there's some cathedrals down there. There's the Bo-Kaap area, which is the I think it's Bo-Kaap, Boskaap. which you could do a tour, and that was we did a walking tour to visit that area, and it's the original like Muslim community that was there for the longest, and it is a protected area, so they only really rent to their people in their community, so to speak. And there's like a cap. Well, they don't. They I think they'll rent to pretty much anyone, but like the getting that cap rate, like that $400 a month rate, you've got to be part of the community and all of that. So they mind their own, and it's small, small area, and it also backs up to you can get to the Table Mountain like walking paths and all of that as well. So I'm just thinking of little things. I didn't have that written on my note, but we did a walking tour. So another thing, guys, like um with a lot of these places, one of a couple things that I always look up is biking tours because you get a little bit more exercise, in my opinion. When you do a biking tour, you can kind of see a little bit more, as well as walking tours. And one of my friends, she is the queen of um, Guru. It's called Guru Walk, Guru Walk, and it's basically free walking tours. But what you do is you pay a suggested fee. You pay what you feel the tour is worth when you're done. And they usually give a suggestion of what, like $10 to $50, something like that. Um, and you get, I mean, don't think that the information is going to be less. You're not going to get as much information because it is a free tour, because you're paying something. Typically, I don't know that many people walk away and, don't try to actually compensate for something unless it was horrible. And so when you're inside the CBD area, there's a couple other areas. There's Bria Street, and then there's Long Street. And Long Street is where all the bars are and the restaurants, and Bria is like the restaurant row area. And then you'll see like there's a couple museums that are down in that area. And when you walk into the museum, it's also a hotel. And you go like past, for example, it reminds you of like being in New Orleans, which reminds you of like France and different places in Europe where on the outside it's so basic, it's so simple, and then you walk in, it's like a courtyard, kind of like a Morocco kind of thing, where you walk in and then there's all of these other businesses inside this little, what you thought was little, but it opens up like that, right? So they have all of that. If you want more of those kinds of things, let me know. Okay, I was gonna say it's not opening up. My map is not opening up, but I have a number of different places that I would strongly suggest. And I also have for you guys, because I'm about to jump off here. I also have Google Map links for every country that I've been to, or broken out by city. So if there's suggestions that you're looking for, I can send you the links um, to the places that I've been, and you can basically click on them and already have kind of like a tailor made, not tailor made, but like a list of things that I've suggested, people suggest, I've been to and or want to go to. And the last thing I'm going to mention, at least it just popped up in my head, y'all, they got tea time. Okay, no, two more things that I'm going to pop up because I didn't really talk about restaurants or eateries. They have very high end things in Cape Town, and like I said, they go from the gamut. From the low, you can get on food truck, buy your own, or go to high end. And so one thing that they have that I ended up doing was tea time, afternoon tea at the Nelson um, Mound, I believe is what it's called, hotel. Nelson has nothing to do with Nelson Mandela. I thought it did, but it does not. But anyway, you book tea time, and it is, I think, 525 rand per person. Um, I think it's 525 rand, which is like 30 bucks, $35, something like that. And you get like this three course, but it's not like plates of food. tea time food. So you're getting snacks and finger foods and tons of cake. Y'all, it was so many sweets, but then you get your starter wine, or you can pay for the wine package where you get a bottle or something like that. And that's just, I think that was like 8 or 900 rand for that package. And basically, you are catered to in this beautiful hotel lobby. There's a like a piano out in the lobby, front foyer, whatever area, sitting area. But then they have the table set up, and you have it's all by reservation only. You cannot just walk in and get a table. I mean, unless probably they are super like slow. And you get 2 hours. We were there for almost three. So it wasn't super packed. So they weren't really rushing us. But they bring all this stuff. And then it's like a book of teas. There are like 50 to 100 teas in there. And I was like, what's on limit? She said, there is no limit, but you only have 2 hours. And so we were trying to drink different ones. And you get this whole craft of tea, and they it's elegant in the way that they bring it to you, and you're not supposed to pour. You ain't don't touch anything. They pour for you. They put the napkin in your lap. Everything. They bring you a purse chair, a purse stool, all of that. And then you can go out into the garden area afterwards, or sit out in the gardens if it's not raining, and have your tea time out there. It is a fantastic experience. I definitely recommend it. I will put it in the description as well. And then the other thing that they have, it's an African dance. I think it's called Golds. And basically, I didn't get to do this. I will do it the next time I go. And basically, it's a whole experience where you go in and you have like a 13 course meal. I don't know. It's not that much, but they offer something for vegetarian, as well as their typical meat platter, meat dishes, and things like that. And so you get this, it might be 5 courses. You get this full immersion experience into the African culture, uh, based on what you select. And then they usually have African dance or some sort of performance throughout the night that is associated with what you're doing. And then they have face painting. So I know some people who went and they got like the tribal paints put on their face, and it was really, really nice, really cute. So it's something to do. And that is only like $35 per person, 30 to $35. And you do need reservations for that as well. But you can check, that's going to be in my Google link where you can find that too. So tons, tons of tons of things to do. Um, if you visit Cape Town. And that's just, like some of the obvious things that you can do. Just walking around, walking and going to the parks, walking the streets, getting your exercise in, lots of gyms, um, just lots of access to all the things that would make your livelihood uh, more enjoyable. They have it. And so, for those reasons, um, South Africa is high on my list. So earlier in this conversation, I mentioned, I would state whether or not I would go back, and even further, if I would live there. And yes, um, I would. I would actually live there, and I am planning to, at the very least, spend 6 months, if not a year, but 6 months. Last little tip that makes South Africa, specifically Cape Town, a plus for me is it's two things. It's proximity to surrounding areas and moving around, getting to Namibia, getting to not always necessarily cheap, but Namibia, Zambia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, um, Esotho, Lesotho, and Eswatini, I believe, are the countries that are within, like right in South Africa. Like access to those is great. But even further is it's literally the middle between the US and Asia. So I am typically in Asia, and it is from Johannesburg, it is a 13-hour flight to Bangkok, and well, with a stop. And like a 13-hour direct flight to America on United Airline, Delta, and else airline and Delta. And I don't know what other airline, but They fly directly into Atlanta. They fly directly into Washington Dulles, um, JFK, New Jersey, of all places, and one other airport they fly into. But you can look all this up, you guys, and see. So proximity, it's very ideal for the things that I have going on and some of the things that I have planned down the road. It really fits. Uh, but keep in mind it is, and in this transition, a lot of people want to stay in the Americas because of the time zones. You stay in the same time zone. This South Africa is 6 to 7 hours ahead, depending on what time of the year you go. 6 to 7 hours ahead of Central Standard Time, 1 hour less for Eastern, and then 2 hours um, for Pacific. But it's doable. It works. So like in the afternoon, early afternoon, it's morning time in in the States. The only time you kind of have an issue is when it's 5 o'clock, then it's midnight, where we are. So hopefully you're not doing things at, 5 o'clock or after 5 o'clock, and you can set your schedule if you're, doing entrepreneur work or freelancing or anything like that. So anyway, you guys, that's kind of boss spiel that I wanted to share with you guys live today. And like I said, if there's any other questions or things that you're interested in knowing about, because I didn't hit, that was just like the the basics of South Africa. That's like not even getting into the deep. Um, Yeah, I'll wait. If someone asks me some more, because I could keep going on, because as I pass it, I'm like, oh yeah, I could have mentioned that. But there's so much. So if there's other questions, other things that you guys have, like I feel like I learned so much in the time that I was there. We didn't talk about dating. We didn't talk about hospitals. We didn't, which I don't necessarily know about hospitals, but I've heard. We didn't talk about, you know, just we just talked about a number of different things that I would normally mention that dig more into like the lifestyle and what you can expect and that kind of thing. So please feel free, even after this video is over, to chime in, ask me anything. And if you want to start planning and you are like brand new at this, or maybe you're not, but you want to kind of walk through your process and what you're trying to do. I offer one-on-ones where I assist, and a lot of the information I give can be universal. So a lot of times people are like, well, what if I don't want to go to any of the places you've been to? I'm on my 50th country, I think, somewhere like that, 50, 51. So I still have 143 countries to get to, most of which I'm, probably 50 of them I ain't gonna go to, 60. But but I have quite a few that I have been to and that I can share. And um, all in all, there's a common sentiment to traveling, and I can offer the some of the base things that you need to know regardless of where you're going. And then if it's a place that I've been to and I've got experience or I've got resources and things like that, being able to assist you on that part of your journey with actually getting settled and figuring out, first of all, how long you're going to stay, getting acclimated to places. I want to get settled in a place where I can start doing onboarding again. It's something I used to do in Kenya, where I have packages set up to when people come to a place and they're relocating, to get you started, to get you your pharmacy, get you your bus card, literally take you to get your SIM card, really kind of helps, because some people need it. Some people want, someone by their side to feel, okay, wow, all right, wow, I can do this. This is easier than I thought. But sometimes you need that little extra guidance. So I am wanting to settle in Asia and in Africa somewhere so that I can pick that back up, because I felt like it's my purpose. It was very enjoyable for me to do. And then also get my yoga practice restarted once I get settled down enough. And the other aspects of my business. But if there's things that you're wanting to do, or wanting to know about specific to your journey, please feel free to set up a one-on-one with me. They're usually 40-minute sessions for $30. I don't mind telling you guys. And I will put the link. It's my Where's Ali Linktree link, and you can just click on that, and it helped. I was just reading your note. Thank you, Marilyn. Don't forget to subscribe, you guys. I appreciate you. How much you charge for counsel? So my one-on-one sessions are 30 USD for 40 minutes. And we usually, what I request is, once you sign up, I have to agree. I actually need to go and check because of my time, because as I change time zones, I need to change my availability. Um, because now I'm 13 hours ahead of CST, or 12 hours ahead of CST. So it's 10 a.m., almost 10:30 a.m. my time, and it's 10:30 uh, Central Standard Time in the US. So I like working around those kinds of things, time zones and everything. So we'll set that time up, but I usually request some information from you first. So be prepared to uh, have some details around what it is that you're trying to do, because we want to make the most of your time so that you are truly getting the value for your 40 minutes, and we're not going over, because there may be something backed up to that. So I want to make sure that we are successful in these sessions, these one-on-one sessions. So I'll put that link in the description for you guys. Actually, it might already be there. It's probably at the bottom. Linktree at Where's Ali. And then if you are already in on this, you've been traveling and you've got some experience, but you're wanting to figure out the steps that you need to start taking, the basic things. I do have a travel course that I created about 3, 4 years ago that is still valid. The only thing that is like, it's a module that's in there that, I just leave it. It's the COVID module that was very prominent back then, but everything else is very relevant to today. And so you can use the COVID module as like your vaccine module in general, because some places still require that you have a yellow fever. They may not ask for the card, but it's always good to have it. And I can even share about um, how to get a yellow fever vaccination in Cape Town, in South Africa. So yeah, I have a travel course that's out there, and that's available on the link as well. And yeah, so there's multiple ways that we can make sure that the information share does not end. So anyway, you guys, if you're interested in that, please uh click the button. Let me know where you're calling, where you're watching from. I appreciate you guys being here, and sharing and asking the questions. And for those who I have met with, who provide me with um, your concerns and your inquisition, that helps me understand like where we as uh, travelers, nomaders, content creators, experience shares, where we can do more to make your journey a little bit easier. The areas that we need to focus on that is helpful to you guys. So I appreciate you guys. I hope to see you again. Stay tuned. I should have a video posted tomorrow. So uh so it's Wednesday night. So yeah, Thursday for you, Friday for me, about that shows my helicopter ride in Zimbabwe, you guys. So make sure you tune in for that. And then I'm just going to be sharing more and more stuff. I've been editing that video for a week. So I had a copyright issue, so I've deleted it, and now I'm going to post it back. So I will chat with you guys later. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'm going to get out and enjoy the rest of my day. Have a banana while I'm at it. So you guys know the drill. Toodles and noodles. Peace and hair grease. Until next time, you guys.